Good evening, everybody. It is Charlie Turnbull. Oh, let's get rid of that. We don't need that. It is Tuesday night. It's cheese night. Welcome to the autumn season. It's season 2. That's what my wife tells me to say. Season 2 of Tuesday night is cheese night. We've got a lovely group of sessions lined up for you guys to taste cheese. We've got Catherine Mead next week to talk about the Specialist Cheesemaker Association. We're going to explore the world with South American cheeses and wine. It is big, it is cheesy, it's all big. I've also got some new toys. Look at this. I've got my little thing. Welcome to TNCN. I rather like this. Playing around with it earlier. What else we could do up here? What about maybe this? So I like this one. Tune in, fill up, and cheese out. I mean, should that be my strap line? I'm rather liking that. Where we get rid of that one. I think we probably should have a bit of academyofcheese.org. Of course, you know that the Academy of Cheese is all about training. It's been a tricky summer for the whole of the cheese industry. Some of us have done quite well. Some of us have done quite badly. It's quite tricky for some of the small cheesemakers out there. So for those of you that have been buying cheese off the small people, we love you very much. We love you very much. Keep buying those great cheeses. Keep buying those great cheeses. What else can we say? So we've been doing some training. There's been a lot of online training. It's good to see. I've done some training. We've had my biggest class yet. Very, very much like I had 5 people internationally. We had 2 people from Belarus. We've got somebody from Australia, someone from America. The Academy of Cheese is truly, truly international. We're going global, even if no one else is. Right. What have we got for you tonight? We have Claire Burt makes 2 fantastic cheeses. Oh, yes, no, that's not drunken. The cheese is drunken. This is Drunken Burt and Burt's Blue. So let's put her in. Let's find her. Let's get some comments. We've got some comments in as well before I do that. Jesus, hello, and Sally. Nice to meet you too. Right, Claire, bring you on. Right, welcome. Lovely to see you.
Good evening. That sounds very formal. Hello.
Hello. Well, you appear to be in your kitchen.
I am, yes.
Mm-hmm. We're not going to be seeing your dairy tonight then? No cows in the background?
No, there's nothing in the background other than an original brick wall.
Dangerous looking knives there. I'm assuming that your husband is totally out of control.
It's sinister.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Let's tell us, just kick off with the good stuff. What are we tasting tonight? And then we can hear about you.
Okay, so we've got our Burt's Blue, which we've got the little Burt's Blue tonight. We do make it in a bigger wheel, but we've just got the little ones. That's the one. That was what we started out making, and that's what we make most of. And then we've also got our Drunken Burt, which is, we have a wedge of the large one, which I think you've got as well to try.
Yeah.
Just because the cheese that we are trying tonight, the larger cheese, is a very young version of the Drunken Burt, I've actually got a smaller, much riper, actually almost overripe, just to show you the difference between how that cheese matures from being a very young cheese to, as I say, the more mature.
Well, let's come on to that, and you can tell us what overripe means, how long your cheese sort of keeps for, when do you think it's perfect? Are you going to be one of those cheesemakers who goes, we have to keep it past the best before date, don't tell the EHO, or does it actually nicely mature inside its allotted period? But, tell us about you. So where are you from? Where are you sitting? Where is your home? So
home is in Altrincham, which is on the sort of South Manchester, Trafford, Cheshire border, depending on, So I think our postcode is a Cheshire postcode, but we're actually in the borough of Trafford. The dairy is just outside Knutsford.
Knutsford Services. Yes, we all know them. That's on the M6.
Everybody knows junction 19 of the M6, don't they?
Yes, I've had some very dirty
many journeys. Yes. So we're just based. When I first started out, I was based at the cookery school in Altrincham, which is probably just a mile from here, in the back of a very basically a warehouse, which was a kitchen centre, and then they developed a cookery school. And we had the side of a building, which it started out at 2.5 meters, and it tapered down to about 1 meter. And it just took the outside.
So is that what gave you the idea to make cheese? You started off on a wedge, and you thought, I can do wedges.
I can do wedges. So it was very cramped. It was very small, but what it did do was get me started. It made me like a scale up from home where I first started making.
So what you were a chef or a cook at that point?
No, I worked. I did food and nutrition as a sort of my background in my degree, and then went into product development and was working for a large Irish dairy cooperative called Dairy Gold Food Ingredients.
Okay.
At their site in Crewe, and that role, it was a great role. Really, I was there for 6 years. I was very lucky that we went to visit lots of cheesemakers across Europe, Ireland, where they had the manufacturing sites.
Oh, okay.
So Denmark.
Were you cutting your teeth on the big boys or these small producers?
It was all business to business. So what we took was 20-kilo blocks of cheddar and put them in blue plastic bags in a grated or sliced format.
Oh, so the range.
Entirely different. Nothing like an artisan or small producer. But it was
so 10 years ago, 2009, pardon me,
yes.
you bit the bullet, decided that cheese was your future, but in a different way to your past. And what you've chosen, in my opinion, quite tricky cheeses. I mean, take this chappie. Yeah. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. So I've cut him open. This is your Burt's Blue.
Yeah,
so I'm guessing a bit, sort of 200 grams, something like that.
We're always a bit generous on the fill. We do it all by hand, so it's all hand labelled into single molds. There's no sort of tipping or pouring. So they do vary a little bit in size, but we sell them as a 180 gram, but they can be up to 200 and 200 plus sometimes.
But this is squeezy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's nice and ready.
Yeah, that's good. So it's,
7 weeks old.
What kind of milk are we talking? We're cow's milk, obviously.
Cow's milk, and it's pasteurised. Because we're making a soft and a mould ripened cheese, we choose to pasteurize the milk. And so I think the one you've got there is about 7 weeks old.
Yeah, I've got a date on here. But are we talking Holstein Friesian?
We actually take a pool of milk, so there will be some Holstein Friesian in the mix. And
you're telling me that you get all your milk from Cheshire, basically 23 local farms.
23 local farms, Cheshire milk. So we take from that pool of milk.
Because we've got Sarah Appleby coming on in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that. So we did some work with her on what makes the original Cheshire recipes, and a lot of it was about the summer grass going down the rivers you got coming through Cheshire, which gives that meadow grazing. And a lot of the traditional Cheshires were summer cheeses because they would get the cheese down, make a lot of it, but then take the cows off and do something different with them during the winter. And the cheese had to go right through the winter. So it's got a real history, possibly the oldest history of grazing for dairy in the whole of the UK around you.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at the history of cheese making and Cheshire cheese, which is some of my bedtime reading, I like to sort of most recently I've been reading a bit more about the history of Cheshire cheese, and it's a fascinating, even to how sort of the trade then that opened up between Cheshire and London, and how that sort of the backwards and forward trade, obviously if it was going down, then the empty carriages coming back would bring things back from London, and you opened up a whole, it was a huge history to the local area, and Chester in particular.
But you decided to go blue. Now I'm going to have a nerd moment. I'm going to have 2 nerd moments tonight. Sorry if you are just dropping in and wanting to know just about the tasting of the cheese, but I want to know how you make soft blue cheese, because all of us in the industry know that to get blue, to flour, to go blue, you need to pierce cheese. But if you make soft cheese, how do you stop the holes closing up? So first nerdy question of the night: how do you stop the holes closing up?
Well, some of it is probably, there's a little bit of not knowing always
right
the answers to the bluing. I mean, the bluing on the little cheese, we've never struggled to get the bluing on the little one. It's we actually pierce it through the sides on that one rather than an up and down.
Which is why we're seeing those sort of horizontal lines.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, which is why you've got the sort of the lines through the paste. And so we do that.
What texture is the curd when you're piercing it? I'm taking it's not as gooey as we're looking at now.
No. So it's anywhere between day 5 and day 7 we pierce the little ones.
Oh, really young?
Yeah, young. And at that point, they're still white. There's no surface mold. Nothing's grown on the outside.
So it's a classic hockey puck at that point.
Yeah, pretty much uninteresting, sort of just white. And you wouldn't know it was blue at that stage. There's no. There might be a little pinprick sign of a little bit of blue, but nothing really. And then we pierce all by hand. When I first started making, I made a vat of about 10 at a time. And that was fine just to go in with a single needle through the side.
Right.
And then when I jumped up to the vat that we have now, and I made probably, I don't know, 100, 150, and I suddenly arrived to do the piercing. I was like, oh, crikey, this is going to take me a long.
That's not going to work for you.
No, it's not going to work. So luckily, spoke to my dad, and he's quite sort of handy and thoughtful around engineering solutions. But it's just a simple, still handheld, but it's got 4 prongs on it, and it's simply turn, and in it goes. And that's enough at that stage for it to open up and allow the oxygen to let the blue grow.
And because it's quite a shallow cheese, you don't need whole knitting needles. You just need to go in sort of the edge of the cheese.
It's about the more challenging one we have for us is the larger cheese we do. So we always used to struggle to get enough blue through that. And then when we didn't get enough blue,
how deep is that?
Still not hugely deep. I'd say about 8 centimeters. 8-10 centimeters.
Okay, that's about that, I think.
About that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably about that on its side.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, guide us in. Choose. Pardon me, got a bit moldified. Choose a cheese and tell people. I'm going to give you a bit of the whole screen here. I've got some new toys, by the way, people. Look at this. Woo! There we go. Oh, there we go back again. So let's give you the whole screen and tell us about your Burt's Blue.
Okay, so Burt's Blue we do as a little baby truckle, which we've been looking at tonight. And Burt's Blue, it starts out obviously day 1 in the vat. We drain the curds overnight, and we knock them out of the molds day 2, and then we dry salt the cheeses by hand. We played around with brine salting, but for us the dry salt just gives us the control and the finished product that we like. So the little cheeses pierced at day 5, day 6, and then it really changes massively. I mean, if you tried this cheese when it's wrapped at 2 weeks, it would be fairly hard. You wouldn't have any of this kind of gooey ripening. It would be much more like the drunken Burt that we've got, which is very young. It's not broken down. It's not got that nice kind of squidgy.
So this rind that we've got going on here looks like a sort of geotrichum, a kind of the yeasty kind of rind from a crottat or something, but it's much bigger in character. But it's got that kind of vermiculated look to it. So what is that mold? So
that's just the blue psyllium that we inoculate milk in the vat.
40. It's just So it's you're eating on the outside. Inside is the same as the outside.
Yeah. So people always ask us, oh, can you eat the rind? But I don't think people are as used to seeing a blue mold on the outside as they are like a brie or a camembert.
No, they're not.
So it's just a little bit about education, I suppose. That yes, the blue that you eat, that you've just eaten on the inside, is just what you've got on the outside.
And talking of education, the Academy of Cheese is an excellent place to learn. Just going to drop that in there. Okay, so we've got blue on the outside, blue on the inside. And so it's the blue, the Penicillium Rock 40 is breaking down the curd from the hockey puck, like that kind of texture,
like that. Yes,
into that. So it's doing the same job as the camembert would, or something like that, in terms of what you might call secondary fermentation. It's breaking down the curd into that.
Exactly. Paste. So with the little one, different to the larger one we make, obviously you get a lot more surface ripening. And that's why you get that real sort of separation, that real goo.
Yeah, almost a slip coat kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and it depends a little bit. This is taken right to the end of its life, really. That's about, as I say, between 7 and 8 weeks.
I'm really loving it. What is it supposed to taste like? I've already eaten too much, but it's...
That to me is how it should eat. It should be soft. It should be gooey. It should be sort of having that bit of a sag. But unfortunately, you know, if it's going
all
out,
the best things sag. I'm just going to say that.
Unfortunately, if it goes out too young, there's always that window, isn't there, of if it going out and it hasn't quite developed
there, yeah,
and then it got to the customer, and to me, then it'd be I never want it to be disappointing and be eaten too young.
So,
but then it does over ripen. You know, it does go beyond what's nice.
Tell me what flavour profile, you know, if you're describing this over the table in a farmer's market to a customer who's not going to taste it right then, what do you tell them to expect? What's the...
I always say it's quite an approachable blue. It's not, I wouldn't say it's beginner's blue, because obviously that sounds a bit, I don't know, but it's kind of...
I like beginner's blue, but I don't think this is one, no.
I think it's approachable. I think it's kind of, it's not, because it's soft and because it's, it has quite creamy notes. I think it has some like buttery notes. You do pick up some of the, obviously as it ages, you do get a little bit more sort of flavour through from the rind. But I'd say it shouldn't have any bitterness at this age profile.
My experience is that people have very different awareness of bitterness. So some people would say that it's not bitter, and other people would go, "Oh, quite bitter." Bitterness, I think there is a bit, but it's a vegetal bitterness. It's not of that quinine kind of just a chemically bitterness, which I think is definitely the nastier end of the chemicals the bitter spectrum. I think you're getting and a certain woodiness. And there is that creamy, but the texture is where the cream really delivers. I think you really get that lovely sweep of cream over the tongue towards the back of the throat, and the sort of woody mushroomy, quite punchy and aromatic, and in a good way, the damp carpet. Comes in as well. If you can have damp carpet in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. I think you're right. I think the creaminess and I think the texture, if there is a little bit of bitterness, it does soften, and it kind of balances that blue and bitter flavour, if there is anything.
Well, we've got, where's my thingy gone? Right, so Alison has sent us through a picture of her cheese board, which I'm going to bring on board. So she's got one of your Burt's blue down there on the corner. It looks like she's matching it with some tête de moine, which could be a first, possibly an époisse, and I don't know what the little bottom left hand is, but that is a cheese board to beat. If anybody out there has got a cheese board that looks better than that, I want to see pictures. Please send them in. And if you're tasting any of Claire's cheeses tonight, please drop a comment in the comments bar, because I want to hear what it tastes like from other producers. Because I'm guessing that this is going to highly depend on what the person who sells it to them tastes like. I mean, if you've got a retailer who knows how to look after your cheese, he's going to sell a better product than one perhaps who's just bunging it in a cold multi-deck and let it be.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and I always just think age, it changes so much. So from 2 weeks, when we take it out of the maturing rooms, we'll wrap it and it'll go into the cold store. It could then leave us at that stage, but then it's about then its journey towards sort of the age profile that it's at now that we're eating it, which is sort of 7-8 weeks. I can't
rate this enough. This is properly delicious. I'm going to be very embarrassing and say I've never had this before, okay? And it's now climbing into my top 5. I really mean that. I know that you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to be 50 next year. I know, strange to true. And one of my gifts is I'm going to get 50 cheeses for my 50th birthday. And this is this is a shoe-in. It comfortably climbs the ranks. Awesome. Right. So what's next?
So we haven't got the larger blue, but the larger blue, because we age that again just a little bit longer than we can the smaller blue, that gives us the opportunity for a little bit more flavours to develop, but it never quite goes as soft as the small ones. The small ones still.
Well, I'm going to get small ones for my party because I love that. That's monstrous.
Cool. And the next one we've got is the Drunken Burt. So the Drunken Burt, unfortunately, with the Drunken Burt, just because of sort of everything that happened earlier in the year, we concentrated on making the blue and keeping that as our core, keeping it simple. So we have started making the Drunken Burt, and sales have gone up. So we're sort of trying to catch up all the time. So this hasn't got much age on it at all. You can still eat it at this age, and it's just a very different cheese to me. It still has a lot of that sort of zing and freshness of a sort of a very young curd. It hasn't really broken down.
Well, we talked yesterday morning about me, and you recommended that I left mine out. So you gave me 2 pieces. Thank you for your generosity. And so let's put this one on the camera. This is the one that stayed in the fridge since yesterday. I don't know if you can see that, but we're getting a little bit of breakdown under the skin, but it's what, 2 to 3 millimeters maximum there. Now the one that we've left out yesterday, and I left it sort of next to my washing machine, has got more breakdown.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's sort of interesting for the people watching to see. That's 24 hours, probably, nearly 30, 40, 35 hours. And that's all it's done. So what time does it need to get, gooey all the way through?
We're talking weeks, really, I suppose. I think if we'd left that another 3-4 weeks, it would never probably go quite as. So this is a small version of the Drunken, which is overripe, as it were. This has gone beyond what we would sell it at. You can see its consistency all the way through. It's really kind of.
Bring it up to the camera.
Oh, sorry.
No, yes, that's good. Okay. It's got that kind of glisten to it, hasn't it?
Yeah,
that means we've got some
really broken down.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a smell to it.
Yeah, it's got more of the surface sort of wash smell that you might get rather than the mold.
Oh, you've not told us. What's it washed in?
So it's washed in Watkin cider.
Okay.
Cider. And the reason we chose that was because when Tom came on board, when we scaled up premises back in 2013, he's from Hereford originally, and that is his preferred cider. And don't particularly drink cider or haven't in the past known much about ciders, but Tom did know quite a lot about ciders and Perry's.
Cider fan, okay.
And so it's
I just went in with a creamy bit just to find out what it tastes like, and you're getting the sweetness of the apple. Actually, you really are.
Yeah.
So for our viewers at home, let's just talk about washing the curd. Okay. The purpose of not washing the curd, pardon me, washing the rind. The purpose is to raise the acidity and allow the formation of bacteria, so it becomes a bacteria-ripened cheese. And the bacteria itself break down and sort of in a slightly cool, fireworksy kind of way, they explode, release their enzymes into the cheese, and then start breaking it down. But enzymes are notoriously slow. And they've got a long way to go on this one, which is why we take some more. So can you just remind me what you said about this is a couple of weeks old, I think you said?
Yeah, so we still inoculate the Drunken Burt with the blue, which is why we've got still got a kind of a moldy surface, and even on this cheese you've got sort of different mold, sort of slight variations in sort of that kind of colours, and then more sort of wash.
I've got very much different. I've got a much darker colour on one side, and then a much lighter colour on the other side, as if we've got more washed rind on the top and blue development on the bottom.
And like the small that I've got here, which is really quite, I'm not very good with this camera. There, you can really see it's much more sort of that kind of washed rind. But we still have the mold on the outside, or the psyllium. But like you say, we've obviously got other things going on with the wash. So the cider wash, we don't wash in a typical wash rind, like brine, and continually wash it over successive days. We just tumble it twice around about day 5, day 6, and then probably around about day 10.
Okay, so really lightly washed.
Yeah, lightly washed. And at that point, we do damage the mold, because the mold is just beginning to show around about day 7, day 8, day 9 on the surface. So it sort of does break down what mold is growing, but still allowing some to come through.
So flavour-wise, what are you asking the cheese to deliver for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it does carry a very mild blue flavour. And some people, as I say, pick up that more on. Some people are more, like you say, sensitive to bitter. Some people seem to be more sensitive to the blue flavour, and pick that blue flavour up. I don't particularly pick up the blue on the Drunken Burt, especially when it's more broken down.
I'm getting a bit off the rind, but I'm not getting any of the centre.
To me, there's not much. the Drunken Burt, when it's fully matured and soft and squidgy, I think it's almost like it changes from, like you say, that appley freshness that you get when it's younger. It almost, you almost get a sort of it sounds strange, but it's almost like a leathery note, almost more pronounced. Sometimes you get that on a cider, so like a leathery, not that's not the right word, but that's what you pick up as the cheese develops, and it softens and it breaks down.
I've definitely eaten these in the wrong order, because I should have had this.
I didn't think that as well. I know you said which cheese, and I just jumped straight in.
I had in my head that the Drunken Burt would be the powerful one. But of course, it just hasn't got there yet. It's still in nappies in cheese terms.
It is. It's unfortunate that we didn't have anything older to send you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go back to this, because I think the blue one is in such good condition, and it shows the importance of condition. People think they know a cheese, but they don't. They know the cheese of a certain condition, or they like it at a certain place in its life.
Yeah, I mean, some people like the younger blue. To me, to me, that's not when it should be eaten, when it's still firm. But it's personal preference, isn't it? Some people like the firmer curd, and they like more upfront bitterness. And to me, it's nice when it's soft and it's gooing and it's.
I like gooey. Yeah, no, my favorite soft cheese is that Gorgonzola Dolce, that young blue. You can bathe your face in it, and you feel you're going to be 10 years younger afterwards. Right. So no, I understand that you are thinking, or you will be going down to 1 herd in the next few days for your milk. That must be pretty scary. Yeah,
we're gonna trial. We're gonna trial it. We're lucky to have the milk we're using, but there's an opportunity to go to go to a single herd, which will present different challenges for us. But we're 10 years since I started, and we've learned a lot, and we continue to learn. And I enjoy the challenges that cheese. We've had lots of challenges along the way between different wild molds that we might have picked up, on the blues, and then, like you're saying, on the larger blues, not getting enough bluing in, and learning about how we pierce those, to just trying to make a sort of a consistent product. We make quite small batches, so if we're doing 5 makes a week, more variation across those at the beginning of the week and start up, and then at the end of the week.
With a single herd, you're going to get a sort of a potential balance between the negative of more volatility and the positive of more flavor from a single herd milk. Yeah. And that's choppy waters for someone who's 10 years is both a long time and not a long time.
A long time as well. Yes.
I mean, when do you think you cracked the recipe? After how many years?
Oh, I don't know. I look back at some of the early cheeses we made, and I don't cringe, but I think we've come a long way, shall we say, from the early days of.
Oh, come on, Claire! You haven't lived. You've got a few regrets. People have this thing about don't have any regrets. I quite disagree. I think you've got to have a few. If you haven't got a few regrets, you've not done it hard enough. So no, you had to feel your way. So when do you think you got it? When do you think Burt's Blue was something that you could reliably turn out with pride?
I'd say it was probably after we left the cookery school, and we probably were still a year or two into the new premises. So we're probably 5, 6. I'd say 5, 6 years on from when I first started making, to where I know, and yet you're learning. And still now, though, that's what's exciting, I think, about cheese making. Yeah. It still presents challenges, and it's always learning. I think
always learning. It is indeed always learning. It's one of those things with cheese that so much of it is invisible. You cannot see the bacteria working. You cannot see the molds working. And so you're going on trust. You're going on your experience. You're going on, well, I hope it does what it did yesterday, and then something sneaks in around the side that's equally invisible and throws you off sideways, and you've got to be paying attention to it.
I think that's it. I think especially with some of the molds that we pick up, sometimes they're not as attractive looking, and that can, you do eat with your eyes. You do people's perception of it, picking up some wild white molds, and it just sort of, to me, I think that's the one you've got, or the one, it's the balance of sort of like, I like the grey and the blue when they mix together. But it doesn't always happen like that.
No, and you're familiar with your cheese. You know what the colours. You can probably look at a cheese and have a fair idea what it tastes like because you've been doing it for 10 years.
Yes, you can.
Whereas somebody comes to your stall in the farmers market, whatever, and goes, "You're joking, right? I'm supposed to eat that?" You know, some 15-year-old or whatever it is. So yes, ugly.
You can tell even at wrapping stage. You know, like I can always tell if it's got this like little lip on some of them. I think that's gonna break down to have a nice separation. It's almost when it's even it doesn't.
Yeah. We always need a good breakdown every now and again. Well, Claire, it's been fantastic to talk to you. We need. Oh, I've got a little banner. Where's my banner? Come back to me, little banner. There we go. There we go. So we want to say, show this. Buy cheese. I love my little banners at burtscheese.co.uk. So everyone out there who wants to try this awesome soft cheese, Claire will send you the best in her cellar, won't you, Claire?
I shall.
Yeah, marvelous. Okay. That is a bargain. Queue up, everybody, for that. Thank you very much, Claire. Say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Right. What a nice lady. What a nice cheese. That is really quality. That thing's like, I cannot believe I don't know this cheese better than I do. Really interesting facts there about how the cheese is made and how she gets it to soften up using Penicillium Rock 40, not the traditional washed rind or Penicillium Camembert or any of the stuff that we're more familiar with, using just the Rock 40. So cool. Right. So if you need to learn more about cheese, of course, the Academy of Cheese is totally available. I have another banner. Where's my banner? Come on. There we go. academyofcheese.org. So if you want to know more about cheese, there's another banner here. What's that one say? Charlie T is awesome and cheesy delicious. Obviously true. Okay, fantastic. See you next week. It's going to be Catherine Mead of the Specialist Cheesemakers Association, but much more famous for her Cornish yard, her garlic yard, and one of my all-time favorites, the Cornish kern. Down from near Truro. So she'll be joining us to talk about all the support the Specialist Makers Association has given to cheesemakers since it was founded. Oh, I'm not guessing, probably 30, 40 years ago, something like that. Hope to see you then. Have a wonderful week. Tuesday night is cheese night. We're back next week. Love you all. Right. Where's my... Yes, that works. Fantastic. See you soon.